Dereta, dereta, dereta. Stop, stop, stop. Okay, okay. Hop, 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 hop. No le mueva. Asparagus.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Stephanie and welcome back to my channel. So in the video today, I want to talk about things I got pimped on during my rotations. So as of now, I've completed, let's see, so we have 8 rotations for my clinical year that we're responsible for completing. And as of now, I've completed 5 rotations. So those rotations have been my emergency med rotation, which was my first rotation. Honestly, I wish that would have been my last rotation, but luck of the draw. So it was my first rotation, and then I had my OB-GYN rotation, my surgery rotation, my psych rotation, and then I just finished my pediatrics rotation. So I have 3 more rotations left. It's going to be internal medicine, family medicine, and then my family one's going to be my elective. And my elective, I'm in between infectious diseases and burn unit. So I had actually already applied to a burn unit elective, but was rejected because of the whole COVID-19, that they weren't taking any students at the time, which is totally understandable. So I've only completed 5 rotations out of the 8, and I can tell you some of the things that I got pimped on during my rotations. So definitely, I could say that during my ER rotation, I got pimped on constantly, if not every day. So what is pimped on? I always use this phrase, and I always tell my husband I got pimped on, and he looks at me like, you got pimped on? Like you have a pimp? So pimped on basically is that you have a doctor or just an individual who asks you questions, whether it's about a medical thing. Usually they ask you questions about pathophysiology of a disease, the physiology of the body, mode of action of prescriptions of antibiotics. It's just questions that they ask you. They do this to medical students, PA students, nursing students. They do this to you as if you're a student, if you're working in the medical field. And so for my ER rotation, I got pimped on constantly, if not every single day. And my doctor made sure he did it a lot because he wanted to make sure we knew what we were doing and why we were prescribing the medication to the patient. His theory was, why are you prescribing this medication to this patient if you don't know what the mode of action is, or the side effects, or how it works, or the bacteria you're trying to treat, or the disease. And so that was his motto. And so for my ER rotation, I got pimped on constantly. I got pimped on the mode of action of antibiotics. And antibiotics, I have to say, guys, during my didactic year, I did really bad with antibiotics. I failed actually my pharmacology exam on antibiotics. So antibiotics have always been a struggle for me. Right now that I have time to study, I'm going back and having to relearn the mode of action of antibiotics, the different classes, whether they're gram-negative or gram-positive, looking back at the bacteria, what makes a gram-negative, what makes a gram-positive. So if you're taking your undergraduate classes and you think that your microbiology class is not going to help you in PA school, you're wrong. Because make sure, if you can, study as much as you can for that class, get an A, because not only will it look good on your application, and it's a prereq for the majority of PA schools, it will help you in PA school also, and it'll come back to haunt you, like during your clinical year, when you have a doctor that's pimping you on the bacteriology of gonorrhea. What is a bacteria? It's a gram-negative, gram-positive. What makes it a gram-positive or gram-negative? Does it stain purple or pink, etc.? So that's why it's really important that if you can, make sure you pay attention, because in PA school they'll briefly go over it, but not as much depth as they do during microbiology. So if you can, make sure you learn that. I'm having to go back, and I even purchased some doctor online that provides videos for teaching you on how to learn microbiology. I'm having to do this all over again. So if you can, take advantage of it as an undergrad, that you're not taking as many courses, and the courses are usually not as hard as PA school, to make sure that you really learn your microbiology. So yes, during my clinical year, we would get pimped on bacteria. I got pimped on Neisseria gonorrhea. We had a patient that I had diagnosed with Neisseria. He told me, well, what's the bacteriology of Neisseria gonorrhea? And I could not remember for the life of me. And he told me, how does it stain? How does it work? Does it release endotoxins? Does it release exotoxins? I didn't know any of this. And I already knew the medication I was going to prescribe for gonorrhea, and I didn't know the mode of action. So he wanted me to know the mode of action of the medication. How does it work? What does it do to the bacteria? Does it attack a certain ribosomal unit? Is it bactericidal or bacteriostatic? So bactericidal completely kills the bacteria. Static is just basically it inhibits its replication. So I didn't know any of this, and it was terrible. Another thing I got pimped on that I remember to this day is the lactic acid pathway. I had not taken biochemistry since, so it was 2019. I had not taken biochemistry since 2016 or 2015. So it had been years. So I definitely did not remember the lactic acid pathway. I didn't remember the aerobic or anaerobic pathway. And it was something that he wanted me to know. So these were some of the things that got pimped on during my clinical rotation in ER. For OB-GYN, my doctor didn't pimp me as much. So that I remember, I don't think there wasn't that much pimping. During my surgery rotation though, I did get pimped on a lot of anatomy. So anatomy and physiology, for those of you who are taking anatomy and physiology, make sure you know it well, because you're going to see it again in PA school. In PA school for me, we had another year of anatomy and physiology, and it's more in depth. If you don't know your anatomy and physiology, it's going to be really hard. So make sure you know it well, especially during my surgery rotation. That's all you're doing. You're looking at a patient's body and you're wanting to know what arteries run where, what veins run where. That way you know where to cut, where organs are located, how they look, etc. So anatomy, I got pimped on constantly on anatomy for that rotation. For my psych rotation, I got pimped on a lot on the medications. So psych medications. I loved, when I took my didactic year, I loved psychiatry, clinical medicine. I found the diseases really interesting. I also found just how the brain works really interesting, the dopaminergic pathways, how the medications work, the mode of actions, the side effects that they have. So I really, really found just psychiatry interesting. And so pimping wasn't as bad during that rotation, because if not, I have to say psychiatry and GI were probably one of my best high scores during my didactic year. So I did really well for that. And then in pediatrics, it was again my antibiotics. So in pediatrics, most of the patients that you're going to see are usually something respiratory involved. So you're usually prescribing, it's either viral or bacterial. You see a lot of strep. So you want to make sure that you know your medications really well. You know your penicillins, your mode of actions. If you're allergic to penicillin, what are you going to prescribe as something else that works also against strep? What is strep? How does strep work? How does strep attack the body? Why is it so important to treat strep? Because it can cause rheumatic fever. What is rheumatic fever? What are the symptoms? What are the major signs and minor signs, etc.? So that's why it's really important that you know your antibiotics. I can't stress it enough. So during my pediatrics rotation, I got pimped on constantly on antibiotics and strep. So those were some of the questions. I got pimped on also on jaundice. So what is jaundice? Jaundice is usually where you see the yellowing around the eye, something common that you see in children. So what is the main cause? What's the pathophysiology behind jaundice? So I had to go home and study this because I didn't know the answer to this, even though I really like GI. I don't remember going over jaundice over children. I think we did, but it was very, very brief. Not to the extent that my doctor wanted me to know. So there was something that he pimped me on. And interestingly, when I got back my feedback from him, so part of my grade is 10% of my grade is for my preceptor, whatever he evaluates me on. And I missed some points from him because I did not know antibiotics. And antibiotics is one of them. It asks the preceptor how well is the student versed on the use of antibiotics and just antibiotics in general. So this was something I lacked on and lost points on. So antibiotics, we can make sure that you know them. So yes, pimping is something that you'll come across as if you go into medicine, whether you're a PA student or a medical student. During my surgery rotation, me and the medical student were getting pimped on the same things. During my psych rotation, I did the psych rotation with a medical student, a nurse practitioner student, and a PA student. We would all get pimped on the same thing. So the doctor is going to ask you questions on medicine. Don't be scared. I mean, there would be times, for example, for my ER doctor, that he would prefer that if I didn't know the answer, not to guess and just tell him, I don't know, sir, I'm going to look up the answer. So it really depends on the preceptor. But sometimes if I didn't know the answer, I would just say, I don't know the answer, sir. Or I would guess and be like, nope, they just shut you down. So just make sure that doesn't make you feel bad at all. It happens to everyone. It happened to me. Just go home. What I would do, write it down in my notebook paper, go home and just study it and make sure I know it so I can come the next day and tell them, you know what, doctor, etc. You told me, you asked me about this, and I went home and I looked over it, and now I know what it is, or now I know why you told me you wanted me to know what it was, etc. But yes, pimping, that's what I got pimped on, and that's what pimping is once you're a PA student, so expect it. Don't be scared. Alright guys, thanks for watching my videos as always. If you guys have any comments for me, make sure you comment below. Any feedback or anything like that, let me know, or just any personal questions, make sure you email me. I'm not in clinical rotations right now due to COVID-19, so I'm currently just studying, so I have time to respond to you guys' emails. Alright guys, thanks for watching my videos, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.